Oh my, oh my, oh my. You thought it was end of the Owlery. I guess Owlery. Anyway, it's not. Because we are at the next habitat, and the next habitat is another habitat for an owl. And a completely different type of owl, one that's way more nocturnal, but also the largest owl of Europe, the Eurasian eagle owl. And they were pretty lazy, just sitting there, because they are much more active in the night, as they are nocturnal animals. However, this is also the end of the hot owl content. And we are back here. We are approaching another habitat to our left. This is the Urial habitat, but we actually won't see Urials yet. They were in the other part of the habitat. So, as you can see, it's another large habitat for them, but I saw them at the completely other side of it. And moving on from the Urial habitat, we are approaching another habitat here where I was pretty lucky and immediately spotted an animal. As you can see, when we come here, we are now at the habitat for the Persian leopard, and there was a Persian leopard up there on a branch, feasting on its lunch. So the Persian leopard is, of course, as the name says, from Iran and neighboring countries. It's the closest relative to the extinct European leopard. And yeah, it's a magnificent animal, of course. And here we have even more footage of the leopard eating on a carcass, probably a lamb carcass, just like the tigers got earlier. This was actually the only footage I got from the European leopard. I don't know how many leopards they have, but only one wanted to show. They have a large habitat, as you see, and of course we will come up on another large Persian leopard habitat later, where we won't see a leopard, unfortunately. But we are moving. Yeah. And we still have the Urial habitat here, but still no Urial, so we are moving on, looking at what we will find next. We will come up on another habitat here, and that habitat, you will soon see, belongs to another very charismatic feline. It was probably feeding time for these animals, because just like with the Persian leopard, I was going to catch this next animal also feeding, so get there. I think we are actually still on the Persian leopard. Yeah, it was still the Persian leopard habitat. I was jumping a little bit ahead here, but we are coming up on the next one, believe me. Yes. You can't say the habitats are too small here. They are definitely not. They are definitely large habitats as these animals need. And here we have it. Here we have another feline busy eating, not really wanting to show much of itself, but it's of course the snow leopard. The snow leopard, which is at home in the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau, and a little bit of neighboring areas too. It's a very shy animal to find in the wild. It thrives in the most inhospitable parts of the mountains, and also it's getting increasingly rare in the wild. Now we are walking on an elevated path here, because you can walk here, and you should, because if you didn't see the snow leopard, this is how you get to see the whole habitat of it, which is very large. This and yeah, I will start talking now when I think we come to the larger habitat. I didn't see more snow leopards either, just like with the Persian leopards. I saw one early and front-loaded the leopard experience and didn't see any more, but this is I think a very good habitat for them, because there is so much climbing, mountainous climbing here, and this is a mountain animal. This is an animal that lives in very harsh mountains. And again, the habitat is segmented in different segments, so leopards are solitary animals, so if you have more than one of them, you often need to have them separated for large parts of the year, and also then you can rotate the animals around so they get different experience, different days, getting a little bit of variety. And of course, yes, that allows the keepers to have access to some parts of the habitat that are empty, while you don't allow the leopards there for now, and then you let them in later when the keepers are gone. Yeah, this was just a lot of habitat to look at. We will also very soon come upon more habitat for the Persian leopard, and as I said earlier, we won't see any more Persian leopards, unfortunately, but they're having, and as you see with the snow leopard habitat, yet a lot of large rocky climbing here, because it's for a mountainous animal. And now we come to, I think, the secondary habitat for the Persian leopard, which is also quite a lot of climbing opportunities, because leopards climb, but not as mountainous, because they are not the same kind of mountain experts as the snow leopard is. So yeah, it's just a lot of habitat to look at this point. And we come to a viewing platform too. So it is probably a good place to watch them if they would have been active there, but then so yeah. And here we are still on the elevated path, and this is the habitat for a Pallas cat, and I didn't see a Pallas cat. It's a small feline from Asia, and it was just hiding. It was just hiding, not wanting to show itself. I can tell you this about this elevated path, that it takes you all the way to the other side of the zoo, so you are actually So if you then keep going, you have actually skipped half the zoo. So once you are done with looking at these felines, if you see them, you want to walk back along this path to where you started and continue there. But while you look back, you can actually look at the other side, because then you see a sneak peek from above of the habitats for the storks and the cranes. So that's awesome to see them from above, but we will talk about them more in the next episode, because then we will actually be walking by this habitat. Now we can just look at them from above. And here I am back from where I started along this elevated path, and now we once again have the Urial habitat to our left. And we will very soon actually get to see some Urial here. Urials are a wild sheep, and the type of Urial that they keep here is the Bukharan Urial from Central Asia. All Urials are from various parts of Asia. They live in highlands, hilllands and mountains of Asia. And of course, the Bukharan Urial, as I said, is from the Central Asian region. And this is what little lamb actually. And we are moving on from the Urials. There will be more Urials later if you hadn't had enough hot Urial action, because they have a secondary habitat in the other part of the zoo, which we will see. But for now, we are moving forward. And we will soon come upon this little place you can rest, and then there was a sign that foreshadows what we are about to experience next. So this sign promises some wolverines, and immediately you can worry, because wolverines are very good at not showing up on zoos, but don't worry, we will actually see one. There was a lot of path to walk before we actually came upon another habitat, but as I walked there I found another place. There you could just look at the environment a bit. If you took to the left here, you came up on this view spot. You could just view the wild wilderness area around us. It was actually pretty nice. The camera was absolutely not liking the sun again, so there will be a few cuts from that were cut away from completely terrible footage. But we are now coming up on the next habitat, and it's not yet the wolverine, even though the sign promised us some wolverines. This is another animal you often don't see because they tend to hide and not show themselves. And I was afraid this would happen again, but actually it doesn't. This is one of the few times that I actually have been able to catch the European wildcat. This footage might not be the best, but there you have it. The European wildcat is a very small feline, about the size of a house cat, actually looks like a house cat, and one of the dangers it faces is actually hybridization with the house cat. It lives in Central Europe, Southern Europe, Scotland actually, and even Turkey and the Caucasus. In some parts of its habitat it's vulnerable, like Scotland. In other parts it's doing much better. As I said, it does look like a house cat. And the house cat is actually a descendant of its African cousin. So it is a very close relative. And then we continue along this path towards the promised wolverine. And keep going, keep going. Now we will finally come up on the wolverine habitat. And it's a large habitat. Wolverines actually, while they aren't that big, they need a lot of space because they move in the wild over large territories. So they need a large habitat for that, and that of course makes it hard to spot them usually in zoos, not only because they have a large area to move around on, but also because they have a lot of hiding places. And they tend to be nocturnal, which is another thing. They usually aren't active during the middle of the day. So I didn't actually had much hope to see one. It's a little bit like with the lynx, that you usually don't spot one, and it's a very good time when you do. However, yes, I was coming to another viewing platform at this point when I spotted it. And there we have it, drinking in that little pond, the wolverine. The wolverine is actually known for being quite an aggressive animal. It shares its habitats with wolves and bears, and being smaller than them, its defense is actually being very aggressive. That way it can protect its prey from being taken by a larger animal, or even scare away a lone wolf or bear from its prey and snatch it from them. Because even though it's smaller, if it comes off very aggressive, the larger animal is like, okay, whatever, don't want to take this fight right now. And here I actually spotted it again. It came back to the so I got more awesome wolverine footage here, which is good because the quality of the first footage was a little bit shoddy. And we will see yet more of the wolverine habitat here. It was, as I said, a pretty large habitat. It's again, it's for an animal that need a lot of space, and also I think it was split in two segments for the reasons I have already talked about, why you split habitats in segments. But you see it has a lot of enrichment, it has hiding places, everything that it needs. And now we are moving on. And yeah, we will soon reach a bunch of other habitats. Unfortunately they're empty. And we will also see this field very soon. Let's see. We'll see. So here I'm coming up to another habitat for the wildcat. I didn't see any more wildcat. I just lucked out once. Either they weren't in this habitat right now, or the wildcat that was here was hiding or sleeping and didn't want it to be seen. But that is just how it is. You usually don't see a lot. This is a normal zoo experience. You come to a lot of habitats and the animal there is just hiding and don't want to show itself. But we'll soon see this large field I was talking about. Usually in summers I read there are horses there grazing, but today they were somewhere else. And this is the field I was talking about earlier, yeah. And it could have been a domestic horse breed. And then we had this habitat that was under renovation. I am guessing it's either for an owl or a woodpecker. Probably maybe a secondary habitat for either. But it looks pretty awesome. I mean, I was thinking woodpecker because how many logs there were for them to play around with, try to find insects in. And we are now moving away from that, and we are coming up to a playground and a cafeteria. And this is actually where I took a short break for lunch, and this will be a good place to end part 2 of this video.